My photo taste is the Pinterest, because they are the best.
This is a download from BBC Learning English. To find out more, visit our website.
6 Minute English from bbclearningenglish.com.
Hello and welcome to 6 Minute English. I'm Rob.
And I'm Alice. Hello.
Hi there, Alice. Now, have you read any books by Jules Verne?
Yes, I have. Journey to the Centre of the Earth was my favourite book as a child. A German professor and his 2 companions climb down a volcano in search of the Earth's centre, or core. They visit strange lands inhabited by dinosaurs and giant prehistoric humans and sail across an underground ocean.
Very exciting, but it doesn't sound very realistic. How do they get out again?
Well, they shoot to the surface from the mouth of Mount Etna during a volcanic eruption.
Wow, well that sounds very uncomfortable. Well, on today's show, we're going to discuss what scientists really know about the Earth's core.
Yes, the Earth has a dense inner core surrounded by a fluid outer core. Dense, by the way, means heavy in relation to its size. But, Rob, I've got a question for you, as usual. How big do you think the inner core is? Is it the size of A, the Moon, B, Jupiter, or C, Mars?
Right, well, I haven't a clue, to be honest, so I'm going to take a guess and say C, Mars.
Well, we'll find out later on in the show if you're right. But before we get there, let's find out a bit more about what the Earth is made of.
Well, the Earth has layers, a bit like an onion.
I like your technical language, Rob.
But I'm trying to keep things simple for you, Alice. It has a thin outer layer, or crust, where we live, and this includes our continents and the ocean floors. Then beneath that, there's another layer called the mantle. And beneath that is the Earth's core, over 6,000 kilometres below the surface.
Right, but what's the Earth made of, Rob?
It's a good question, and it depends on which layer you're talking about. The crust and mantle are rock and contain a lot of silicate, which is the same stuff that glass is made of. But the outer and inner parts of the core mainly consist of iron.
And the core is very hot, am I right?
You are indeed. The professor and his companions wouldn't have survived very long down there. The outer core is a swirling mass of molten or liquid metal, and it's as hot as the surface of the sun.
Wow, that must be so hot. Right, let's listen now to Simon Redfern talking about the inner core and what's happening in there.
And so over time, the planet has started to cool. And as it cools, eventually, at the centre of the Earth, the highest pressure point, we pass over the crystallization temperature, the freezing temperature of iron, and iron starts to freeze at the centre of the Earth, and you get a crystal of iron right in the middle that starts to grow.
I'm a bit worried that the Earth is freezing in the middle.
Don't worry, Alice. In this case, because of the incredibly high pressure in the core, the freezing point of iron is actually about 6,000 degrees.
Oh, right.
And the iron has been cooling down and crystallising for 1 billion years, and at a rate of just 0.5 millimetre every year.
Oh, well, yes, that sounds like slow progress.
Certainly. Now, moving on, we should also talk about the fact that it's the liquid iron outer core that generates magnetic fields, and it's thanks to these magnetic fields that life on Earth is possible.
Right.
Let's hear more about this.
Well, the magnetic field is very important because it protects us against cosmic radiation. So that's one really...
How does it do that?
It just creates a shield which will just deflect the cosmic rays from the sun to actually reach us at the surface of the Earth. So it protects us.
So it goes up there, and
you would see there's just you would see the radiation kind of go around the Earth and not actually reach us.
So, there's a magnetic field around the Earth that protects us from the sun's cosmic rays. I'd like a magnetic field around me. It could be my superpower, like in X-Men.
Oh dear, calm down, Magneto. Now, the magnetosphere is the area around the Earth in which the Earth's magnetic field is felt. It protects us from the sun's radiation and the flow of particles which would otherwise strip away or remove the Earth's atmosphere.
Right, I see. And what does radiation mean?
Well, radiation means heat or energy or particles in the form of rays. In this case, the sun's rays.
Okay, and deflect?
To deflect means to make something change direction.
Right, I see. Thank you. Now, Rob, I asked you, do you remember, at the beginning of the show, how big is the Earth's inner core? Is it the size of A, the moon, B, Jupiter, or C, Mars?
Yes, and I had a wild guess and I said C, Mars.
Yes, and I'm afraid that's wrong, Rob.
Ah.
The answer is A, the moon. Would you like to shape up and tell us which words we learnt on the show today?
Of course, good idea. We heard core, dense, crust, mantle, silicate, molten, magnetosphere, strip away, radiation, deflect.
Yes, thank you, Rob. Well, that's the end of today's 6-Minute English. We hope you enjoyed our core vocabulary. Please join us again soon.
Bye-bye.
My photo taste is the Pinterest because they are the best. Flick to link, link to flick.
I want to talk to you about my kids. Now, I know everyone thinks that their kid is the most fantastic, the most beautiful kid that ever lived, but mine really are. I have 696 kids, and they are the most intelligent, inventive, innovative, brilliant, and powerful kids that you'll ever meet. Any student I'd have the honor of teaching in my classroom is my kid. However, because their real parents aren't rich, and I argue because they are mostly of color, they will seldom get to see in themselves the awesomeness that I see in them. Because what I see in them is myself, or what would have been myself. I am the daughter of two hardworking, college-educated African-American parents who chose careers as public servants. My father, a minister. My mother, an educator. Wealth was never the primary ambition in our house. Because of this lack of wealth, we lived in a neighborhood that lacked wealth, and henceforth a school system that lacked wealth. Luckily, however, we struck the educational jackpot in a voluntary desegregation program that buses inner city kids, black and brown, out to suburban schools, rich and white. At 5 years old, I had to take an hour-long bus ride to a faraway place to get a better education. At 5 years old, I thought everyone had a life just like mine. I thought everyone went to school and were the only ones using the brown crayons to color in their family portraits, while everyone else were using the peach-colored ones. At 5 years old, I thought everyone was just like me. But as I got older, I started noticing things like, how come my neighborhood friends don't have to wake up at 5 o'clock in the morning and go to a school that's an hour away? How come I'm learning to play the violin while my neighborhood friends don't even have a music class? Why were my neighborhood friends learning and reading material that I had done 2 to 3 years prior? See, as I got older, I started to have this unlawful feeling in my belly, like I was doing something that I wasn't supposed to be doing, taking something that wasn't mine, receiving a gift, but with someone else's name on it. All these amazing things that I was being exposed to and experiencing, I felt I wasn't really supposed to have. I wasn't supposed to have a library, fully equipped athletic facilities, or safe fields to play in. I wasn't supposed to have theater departments with seasonal plays and concerts, digital, visual, performing arts. I wasn't supposed to have fully resourced biology or chemistry labs, school buses that brought me door to door, freshly prepared school lunches, or even air conditioning. these are things my kids don't get. You see, as I got older, while I was grateful for this amazing opportunity that I was being given, there was this ever-present pang of, but what about everyone else? There are thousands of other kids just like me who deserve this too. Why doesn't everyone get this? Why is a high-quality education only exclusive to the rich? It was like I had some sort of survivor's remorse. All of my neighborhood friends were experiencing an educational train wreck that I was saved from through a bus ride. I was like an educational Moses screaming, "Let my people go to high-quality schools!" I'd seen firsthand how the other half was being treated and educated. I'd seen the educational promised land, and I could not for the life of me justify the disparity. I now teach in the very same school system from which I sought refuge. I know firsthand the tools that were given to me as a student, and now as a teacher, I don't have access to those same tools to give to my students. There have been countless nights when I've cried in frustration, anger, and sorrow because I can't teach my kids the way that I was taught, because I don't have access to the same resources or tools that were used to teach me. My kids deserve so much better. We sit and we keep banging our heads against this term, achievement gap, achievement gap. Is it really that hard to understand why these kids perform well and these kids don't? I mean, really. I think we've got it all wrong. I think we, as Gloria Ladson-Billings says, should flip our paradigm and our language and call it what it really is. It's not an achievement gap. It's an education debt for all of the foregone schooling resources that were never invested in the education of the black and brown child over time. A little-known secret in American history is that the only American institution created specifically for people of color is the American slave trade. And some would argue the prison system, but that's another topic for another TED Talk. The public school system of this country was built, bought, and paid for using commerce generated from the slave trade and slave labor. While African Americans were enslaved and prohibited from schooling, their labor established the very institution from which they were excluded. Ever since then, every court case, educational policy, reform has been an attempt to retrofit the design rather than just stopping and acknowledging we've had it all wrong from the beginning. An oversimplification.
Flick to link, link to flick. My photo taste is the Pinterest.